I guess my fondest memory of them together was when they said "I do" on the beaches of Turks and Caicos over in the Caribbean, and all that white sand, and they were just beaming. They were so happy to be married and gonna be able to start a family. When she called me and said that she was engaged, they were in Mexico someplace, and Brian let her call, and it was late, so she starts out the phone call. "I'm sorry it's so late, don't hang up on me." Because she knows how I feel about late calls, but I still would never have hung up her being that far away. I would want to know that she was okay. Mm-hmm. But she said, that Brian asked her to marry him. She was so happy. It made me so happy. Of course, I couldn't sleep the rest of the night, knowing how happy she was, but it was really, really something.
Do you remember the last time you saw your daughter? Or the last conversation maybe you had with her?
I do. She and Brian stopped by, and I can't remember what they were on their way home from, but she gave me this big old hug. And it was probably about a week before she was killed. So, and we had planned to go out there at the weekend that she got killed. And I was planning a surprise party for my other son's birthday, and I kept calling her, and she wasn't answering her phone, and then I found out why. So, just her she always gave the best hugs. Whether it was people at work, or me, or her brother, her other brother, sister-in-law. They were like exact matches. They were in the same sports when they grew up. They found out everything just matched. They did everything the same as they grew up. Bev was even in a baseball league when she was in kindergarten, and she was on the boys' team. That's how good she was. And they skated together, they did scuba dived, and the first couple of years, I think that I didn't believe she was gone. That I would wake up from the nightmare and everything would be normal. And then once I started to believe that Beverly was gone, I started suffering health conditions, and I seeing several doctors trying to get over that. But I look up at the sky at night and I see a star, and I say, "Okay, Bev, she's always the brightest star up there." So we're all just hanging in there the best we can, and I just may never get over this. I don't foresee that happening. I just miss her so much. And I wear her around my neck every day. She's always there. And this is a teardrop, which I copied from one of Bev's friends who lost her brother. But I miss her, and I miss Brian so much. The two of them. Brian helped me over at my other house so much. He and DJ helped each other install a water heater for us. But I praise that moment. There was so much more, I always wanted to say and everything, but I would have held her forever had I known that I was not going to see her again. And I just feel like Massachusetts needs to take some responsibility. How dare they let him out of their state and not tell the neighbors when they knew where he was that they were in danger? And he had lied to all of the neighborhood and told them, "Well, I was in jail that long because I killed 2 men that molested my daughter." Well, that was not the truth. Of course, we found later he had killed his mother, stabbing her 26 times, and then he wasn't supposed to be out of prison. You'd think he'd be in for life, but he got out early, and they hadn't filed all the reports, otherwise he would have been in there a lot longer. And then I found out that they were allowed to online date. So here he is dating somebody online or emailing back and forth like a dating service, and comes out and marries this girl. And here Mitt Romney was in town running for president, and he was having a campaign. He was on TV and everything at the exact moment when my daughter and her husband were being killed. But it's just, I guess I will never understand why Massachusetts didn't take responsibility, and why is my daughter and her husband's lives not worth the extra $50 or whatever it would have cost him to bring him back from, you know, he skipped parole, and to bring him back to serve his parole or whatever, then none of this would have happened. Initially, and we may still do this when I feel better, we wanted to write a bill, a Bev and Brian Mauck bill, that states that if there is a criminal, I mean, we do this for child molesters. I worked at a school district, and we always got word if there was a molester, a child molester in the area. But for these criminals and rapists and murderers, we don't know who our neighbors are, and I think we have that right. I mean, I hardly ever leave this house anymore alone. It's put a new, I am always brave and, you know, never fearful of anything, but now I am of everything, it seems like. But I want to foresee that if a state lets a criminal go, that they notify our authorities and they post something like they do the child molesters, so that they can let the neighborhood people know, be careful, you know, you have this person living there. And whether we as neighbors choose to accept that or not, that would be our choice. So that's what I hope comes out of all this, and that Massachusetts does not be so glib about letting their prisoners go. I want Massachusetts to fess up and say, you know, we did wrong. I mean, I've heard from no one in Massachusetts except the father on TV saying he was so sorry, Daniel Tavares' father. But an apology wouldn't be good enough. And just because they're so silent, I think they are feeling very, very guilty over all this. And so they're showing their guilt. And I want them to be more responsible. She worked at a child care, and she and Brian were always so good with their nieces, and for them to parent and have their own children. Oh, children couldn't be luckier, you know? And I just really feel the loss from that. And I did get very lucky because my other son and daughter-in-law gave me a granddaughter, and she's darling. But I just wanted Bev to have children. I think that she needed to experience the happiness of being a mother. And what I do daily is I still talk to Bev all the time, whether it's happy or sad or angry, or it's like she's right there. And I feel like she can hear me. I feel like I can. She called me every day on her way to work. Even if I was at work, I'd stop and answer. And on the way home from work, I mean, every single day. So at first I just so totally missed those calls.
I talk to Bev once in a while and stuff like that. Now she's around because her soul's down here, even though it's up there in the Lord's house. But Brian's too. Talk to him too. So it's a blessing. But at the time,
sometimes you call me and say, Brian, Bev, you know, if they had been here, this wouldn't have happened, or I could call and ask them this or that. And he really relied on their help.
Both of them, most of the time, particularly all the time, and everything. So yes.
I would never wish upon anyone to have to go back to appeals and paroles, and I don't believe in that. You know, it's an eye for an eye, and when somebody's pled guilty and they get the death penalty, and he pled guilty, no parole, no appeals. And that was fine. I mean, it was good for us. We don't want to pass this on generation after generation, fighting the court system. And that's what happens. Somebody needs to get up there and clean that up. I don't know how, you know. I may investigate this when I feel better. But our system is getting ridiculous, you know, feeding all of these criminals and just knowing that Bev's murder is a burden on our society. Yeah. Let him go, but you know, and I believe in the eye for an eye thing. He should have been put to death, but I'm glad that he doesn't have the chance to appeal or be out on parole.